Welcome to Sports Talk Live. We got a good show for you today. We'll be talking about NBA playoffs, the NCAA championship game last night, and we'll talk about baseball. We'll see you back here in a few minutes. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we have two very special guests. I'm your host, Brandon Vonderohe. To my left here we have Brock Maxwell, and the host of Speak Out Sports here on RAK Radio, Sam Woodworth. We got a full-packed show for you guys. Right now in the sports world, NBA basketball turning around to playoff time. So, let's talk East-West basketball. What are you guys' predictions for the playoffs? What are you looking forward to?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the Western Conference. Usually dominates when it comes to basketball in the NBA. It's been a while since we've had an Eastern Conference champion other than Miami Heat when they had LeBron and Dwayne and Bosh, the whole big three thing. I really think the Warriors are playing incredible this year, led by Steph Curry. He's an MVP candidate. They got Klay Thompson too. Steve Kerr's doing an incredible job in his first year as head coach. I mean, to jump into a program that was in the playoffs last year, lost their head coach, and to bring them up, they're at 63 wins right now. They're leading the league in wins. That's impressive with a rookie head coach especially. So I think the Warriors will plow their way through. I see them in the finals at least.
Yeah, I think it's really hard right now to pick against the Warriors just because of the type of basketball they are playing, and they do have an MVP candidate in Steph Curry on their team, leading their team. But right now, I think the Spurs are still going to be the favorites in the West. It's really hard to pick against a team that ends up in the NBA Finals year after year after year with all that veteran leadership they have there. And speaking of the East, I think it's really hard to pick against the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. LeBron James, I think he was injured earlier this year, came back from that, has looked like the younger, crazy dominant LeBron James that we're used to, and their trades that they made for Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith have really helped them step their game up. So I'm looking for a Spurs-Cavs final, hopefully.
All right, so Sam, you mentioned Golden State. So right now they have a tough matchup with the 8 seed Oklahoma City. How do you think that matchup fares? I mean, Oklahoma City is like an up and down team all year. They're battered by injuries. Russell Westbrook's having an unbelievable year. So you think Golden State gets out there 4 games, or think it'll go farther, 6 or 7?
No, it's going to be pretty easily. Oklahoma City's going to lose. It's just flat out. I've never really liked the Thunder, but it's not that. It's Russell Westbrook right now. He's carrying the team. He can't do that, especially with Kevin Durant out, and they're not getting him back this season. He's the workhorse of that team. They need both those guys working well to be able to have a cohesive unit that can win games. I don't think they're going to make it past Golden State.
All right. Speaking of Russell Westbrook, in the MVP race for the NBA, who do you guys have? I like to advocate for Russell Westbrook, averaging nearly a triple-double all year. Had his 11th just a couple days ago. Obviously, the Thunder aren't exactly winning the caliber of games that MVP award would go to, but what's your guys' take on the MVP race?
Yeah, I think Russell Westbrook would have the MVP if the Oklahoma City Thunder were anything better than an 8 seed. But having said that, if Kevin Durant was healthy all year, then Russell Westbrook would not even be in this conversation. So it's a very interesting situation that's happening there in Oklahoma City. But right now, I think the front runner is Steph Curry. He's leading the team, the best team in the NBA, and he's playing amazing basketball. You also have to keep James Harden in mind when you're talking about the MVP. It seems like every night I turn on ESPN and it said Harden drops 50, Harden goes for 40. So you just got to keep those 3 guys in mind. But right now I think Steph Curry has the nod.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I think it's down to James Harden and Steph Curry. You've got Curry playing for the NBA's best Warriors against Harden, who's playing for the Rockets, they're number 2 right now, and they haven't had Dwight Howard for most of the season. Harden's averaging like 27 points per game. He's right up there with Russell Westbrook, but he's been playing consistent all year long. And to think he was a product of Oklahoma City a few years ago, he was a bench guy, and now he's a starter there in Houston. And I want to root for him for the MVP. I know Steph Curry's playing incredible basketball, but I think James Harden's got it this year.
All right. No love for LeBron James. I'm just going to throw this out here. LeBron is putting up the same numbers he has in the last how many years? So no love for LeBron, or you think it's a little voter fatigue? People are just sick of him winning the ESPN, or what do you guys think?
I think it is that to a point. Every time the MVP award comes around, it is LeBron James winning it. But yeah, right behind Steph and James Harden, I think he's probably the next guy up there. The Cavs are playing really good basketball right now, and he, like you said, he hasn't dropped off at all. If anything, he's probably stepped his game up over the last few years, so he's got to be in there as well.
He's got too much support around him to be an MVP candidate. He's got Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love's not had the greatest year, but he's still got Kevin Love. He's still got J.R. Smith. Like you mentioned, they got Iman Shumpert. They've got a whole good team there. So, yes, he's the leader of the team, and yes, it's a feel-good story. He's back in Cleveland, hopefully winning a championship this year, maybe. But the only reason he's won in the past is usually because it's a popularity contest. This year, I think it's going to be based off of who played the best, and it's going to come down to Curry or Harden.
All right. So, if in a head-to-head matchup, who would you take, Curry or Harden?
I would go Steph Curry.
I'd probably say Steph Curry, too.
All right, I would agree. Moving on, we have NFL rumors and fines and disciplinary action coming constantly in the offseason. So, just a few topics today. The Cleveland Browns with their texting scandal. Brock, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know the exact details on this, but from what I've read, someone up in the booth in the Cleveland Brown organization was texting the coaches and other staff on the field, which is a big no-no in the NFL. And I think they were fined somewhere around $300,000 for that, and there might even have been a couple, I think a 4-game suspension handed out to whoever was in that texting fiasco. So, yeah, be really careful, any NFL teams out there. You guys all know the rules. You're going to get caught. There's cameras on you everywhere. There's people watching you at all times. So just be careful about that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so the Browns are the latest one to fall into the off-season victims for not following the rules, I guess you could say. That leaves them with the Atlanta Falcons for pumping stadium noise into their stadium, losing a 5th-round draft pick. So what do you guys say to teams that are – we also had Deflategate with the Patriots. Like, what is the culture going on here in the NFL, constantly having these issues?
I feel like teams really feel like they have the need to gain a competitive edge wherever they can, whether it be footballs on the field or whether it be texting people on the sidelines or whether it be pumping in fake crowd noise. It's whatever statistical or competitive advantage you can get over your opponent, so that way you can win games, make the playoffs, and make a run to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think teams are going to continue to do this because, as most of you well know, $300,000 to an NFL organization is not that much money. It sounds like a lot of money, but in the long run of things, it's really not that much money.
All right, and just around the corner is a national holiday for NFL fans, the draft. So, big names in the draft that we like to focus on today: Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, and Melvin Gordon. First of all, let's start with the first overall pick going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who do the Bucs take, or do the unthinkable and trade their pick away? Sam, let's start with you.
They're going to have to get a quarterback. They're going to go with Mariota or Winston. They've looked at both quarterbacks. Mariota's got the mobility that you want out of a quarterback, and he's got that great playmaking ability. Last year, he only threw like 3 or 4 interceptions all season. Or Jameis Winston, he's a bigger guy. He can get you a few yards when you need it, but he's got a cannon of an arm. So they got a tough decision there to make. And I'd be, like you said, I'd be surprised to see them trade away their draft pick, but really, it could be an option.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade away their draft pick. I think they're going to pick Jameis Winston with the first overall pick. If anybody paid attention to his, I think it was his pro day that was here a week and a half ago or so, he looked amazing. I think he threw a 92 out of 102 balls or something for completions, and 6 of those were drops by his wide receivers. So,
Right. So a lot of people taking Jameis Winston over Mariota. Let's go to another all-star position in running back. Melvin Gordon, the Wisconsin boy. Vikings, a lot of talk about Vikings needing a running back with the whole Adrian Peterson situation. I know, Brock, you as a Packer fan.
Not, man. I hope not.
What's your input on that?
I love Melvin Gordon. I've had Badger season tickets for 8 years, I think, so I've watched him play every single game he's played in Camp Randall, and it would break my heart to see him wear that ugly purple and whatever else colors you guys got up there. It would just crush me. I'm hoping he just ends up somewhere that's not in the NFC North and somewhere that has cool jerseys so that I can get one.
All right, we're going to head to a commercial break. We'll take a look at some perfect pets. We'll be back right after this.
Each week, the student-run television station WMCM-TV sends out a group of students to film some of the most precious animals of the Cooley Region Humane Society in a segment we like to call Perfect Pets. The Cooley Region Humane Society offers a variety of programs and services at little or no cost to help both animals and people in our community. If you have found or lost a pet, are in need of training assistance, need cat behavior consultation, desire to volunteer, need to surrender your pet, or are looking to adopt a pet, the Cooley Region Humane Society offers this and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Adopt or become a volunteer today. To find out more about these services, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Welcome back. Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 608-781-4014. So back on that sports grind, baseball season kicked off on Sunday. Let's start in the National League. What are you guys' favorites for the National League? Who's coming out in the NL?
You got to go with the Giants as a front runner because they've won the World Series 3 of the last 5 years. Madison Bumgarner's up there as one of the top pitchers, not just in the National League, but in the majors. Buster Posey's probably one of the best young players in baseball. You just think if they can stay healthy, that they might do it. Odd-numbered years aren't usually their favorite. They usually win even-numbered years, so maybe there's something to that. Maybe they won't do well this year.
I think that along with the Giants, obviously, you got to watch out for the Dodgers. They're always good. They got a bunch of big-name players on that team as well. And I think you might want to look out for the Pittsburgh Pirates this year. Andrew McCutchen, I believe his name is. He's playing really good. He played really good last year. Hopefully he can keep that up. And it's going to be an interesting race to see who comes out of that now.
I can't help not to mention the St. Louis Cardinals, always loaded with talent. They got Adam Wainwright on the hill, Johnny Peralta, Matt Holliday, and of course Yadier Molina, the captain behind the plate. So they're obviously contending with Pittsburgh. So heading back out west, the Dodgers with Clayton Kershaw. Can they compete with the Giants, Sam?
They can try their best, but ultimately I don't think they have what it takes. I think they're relying too much on Yasiel Puig to be a young talent, and last year he just didn't really show it for me. So pitching can get you only so far. You got to have some offense too, and I don't think they've got enough to make a deep run in the playoffs.
All right, moving over to the American League. Who do we have coming out of the American League? Last year we had the Royals with that remarkable run. Do they repeat as AL champions?
I don't see them coming out. I think last year it was kind of a magical season for them. It was fun to watch, but I don't see that happening again. Yesterday, if you guys watched opening day, the Blue Jays took it to the Yankees pretty good. I think they're a team you have to watch out for, as well as the Angels with Mike Trout. He's one of the best young players we've ever seen, so I think that those two teams will be the favorites out of the AL.
You got to look at the Oakland A's out of the AL West. Yes, they've got the Angels, but they've won that division the last 2 or 3 years, and they've got pretty remarkable talent over there as well. But I'd be surprised to see the Red Sox make a run this year. Last year they didn't do so well coming off that World Series win in 2013, but look what they did in the offseason. They got Rick Porcello. They got the Kung Fu Panda out there, Pablo Sandoval. He's going to cover third base. David Ortiz. I think he's got one big final run left in him. Hopefully this is the year that they can bounce back in that AL East.
No one's talking about Detroit. I mean, they got rid of Scherzer, but they got David Price and Verlander, arguably the two best pitchers in the American League, both previous Cy Young winners. What do you think about Detroit, guys?
Verlander's just getting old. He's just getting old.
He can wing it. He can wing it.
His arm's going to give out one of these days. And, you know, yes, you've still got a lot of talent in David Price, but you got to have some batting, too. And, yes, they still got the guy, Miguel Cabrera, the Triple Crown winner from a few years ago, and a former MVP himself. But I don't see the Detroit. They'll do well in the Central, but I don't see them making a deep, maybe an ALCS appearance this year. But that's it. They're not going to the World Series.
Yeah, they pounced on my Twins yesterday 4-0. So, moving on, let's talk about the hometown team, the Brewers. So, I'm from Minnesota, not a really Brewer-oriented player or fan. So, they got pounced yesterday, 10-0, with their number 1 on the mound. Sam, you want to start us off with the Brewers?
They're just playing terrible. They haven't been the same really since the whole Ryan Braun situation a couple years ago. Yes, he's still on the team. Yes, he's still being productive, but he's not as productive as before the whole steroid situation. And you trade away Yovani Gallardo in the offseason to Texas, and you don't get much in return, you're not going to have a good year when you trade away your number 1 player.
Yeah, I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see what they do, though, just because if everyone remembers last year, they started out so hot, and most people were saying they were arguably the best team in baseball. And I think it was after the All-Star break, they just lost every bit of momentum they had. So hopefully, if they're going to start out bad this year, they can kind of get it together late in the season and hopefully make some type of run. But yeah, yesterday was pretty embarrassing as a Brewers fan to watch. You never like seeing your number 1 guy go up there and just get crushed all game.
I mean, I wonder if the Rockies are just different this year or what, but they were not a very good competing team last year, so maybe a fluke for the Brewers. We got to keep in mind that the Brewers are in the Central, a loaded Central division with St. Louis and Pittsburgh, always good. Do you see the Brewers contending for the crown in the Central?
No. Just one-word answer, no.
No.
Yeah, I don't see them contending either.
Yeah, they would definitely have their work cut out for them. So, moving on to the next topic. Last year's surprise was the Kansas City Royals. This year could be a different story. Who do you guys see being the surprise America's team in the running the playoffs this year?
I'm going to say the San Diego Padres, and for one reason, because they've been able to trade. They got Matt Kemp from the Dodgers, they got Justin Upton, Melvin Upton, and Craig Kimbrell from my Atlanta Braves. So if they don't win at least 80 games or 90 games this year, I'll be surprised. They've got a loaded team this year. They should have no problems with pitching, and their outfield is stacked. I mean, they pretty much have the entire Braves outfield from last year, so I'd say the Padres will be my surprise team this year.
Surprise for me, as much as I just bashed on them in the last segment, I'm just, as a hometown fan, I'm going to hope the Brewers surprise us this year. They were so much fun to watch last year at the beginning of the season, and hopefully they can, like I said before, get on a little roll towards the end of the season and make a postseason push. That would be very exciting to watch, but I don't really see it happening, but I'm hoping they surprise me. So,
So not much of a surprise, but I'm going to go towards the payroll kind of thing. So MLB has a variation of a payroll. They're not consistent like the NFL. So at the top, we have the Dodgers and the Yankees. But at the bottom is the Oakland Athletics, who continue to produce talent year after year. They had one of the best records in the MLB last year. So what do you guys think, teams with low payrolls, how can they compete with these teams up in the high payrolls like Los Angeles and New York and the huge major cities?
Well, sometimes you can get quality players for nothing. I mean, you get guys, you develop them young, you draft them, you put them through your farm systems in your minor leagues, and in 2 or 3 years you could have a quality star. And that's what Oakland does. I mean, the whole movie last year or a couple years ago with Moneyball, that was the Oakland A's. That's what Billy Beane does as a general manager. He goes out, he makes trades, he gets money, he gets draft picks, and he builds a team from the ground up.
yeah, it's all about developing. And you almost got to think, like, these guys almost have to want it more because they're not getting paid as much as the Yankees players or the Dodgers players are getting paid. They just aren't. It's just a fact. So, like Sam said, building them from top to bottom or bottom to top, actually, it really just helps those, and that's why they're always successful. All
right, moving on to our last baseball topic. The World Series is a while away, but we like to make predictions on this show. So who are your World Series predictions and champion of the World Series come October, November?
I'll go out on a limb and I'll say we'll have the Giants versus the A's. We're going to have ourselves a good old battle by the Bay, Oakland versus San Francisco. And I'd love to see the Oakland A's win it. I really don't want to see the Giants go back-to-back and 4 in the last 6. But if that's the way it's going to be, if we're going to have a dynasty in baseball, why not have it be the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, I right now, not a huge follower of baseball, but I'll throw some predictions out there. I think that the Giants will be in it again, but I'm going to say the Angels because of Mike Trout. I think he's good enough to almost carry a team, even though it's very hard to carry a team in baseball. I think he's good enough to do that, and I'm going to say the Angels are going to win it.
I'm going to throw up a dark horse and say Washington, another team with that high payroll. Bryce Harper, one of the best young stars in the game in the NL. Can't forget Scherzer is now part of the Washington Nationals. And then the American League, I'm just going to throw out a name here and say Detroit. I mean, you guys are bashing them earlier, but they're getting old. But I feel like this is their year to make a run. They got a new coach. They're fresh. I feel like their pitching can take them deep into the playoffs. It'd be a good battle with Washington. Watch the young guns go up against the old savvy vets. All right. So, moving on in the World Series, give me a player to watch this year that would be up for an MVP talk.
You keep mentioning guys like Mike Trout, Bryce Harper. I mentioned Buster Posey earlier. Why not go with Buster Posey? He's the guy that's leading the Giants. He's the new face of the franchise, if you will, and he's always been a quality player. So I'm going with Buster Posey.
I can see Buster Posey as well, and he's on one of the best teams, so it'll be interesting to see.
All right, that's the bell. We'll take a quick break and take a look at the UWL promo. We'll be right back after these messages.
At the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, surround yourself with potential. Surround yourself with lifelong friends. Step on campus and be welcomed with a friendly smile. It's just like home. Surround yourself with nature's beauty. Nestled in western Wisconsin's driftless area, it's perfect for learning. Hike the bluffs, bike the marsh, soar. Surround yourself with challenging academics. Our motto is Men's Corpus Gay, Latin for mind and body. Experience a whole education. Conduct research. Surround yourself with distinction. Surround yourself with UW-La Crosse.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. So a little birdie in my head said there was a basketball game last night. The hometown Badgers couldn't quite pull it off against the Duke Blue Devils. So what were your guys' thoughts on the game? Start with you, Brock.
Well, as a huge Wisconsin Badger fan, it was really upsetting to see. It was a great season, and that I don't know if I'll ever be able to see a season like that again out of Wisconsin, since it took them 74 years to get back to where they were last night. But it was just really upsetting. There were a couple questionable calls that I didn't agree with that happened late in the game, that you can't say one call to, will change the outcome of a game, but you don't ever want to see those calls go against a team that you're cheering for, especially on such a national stage. So it just really broke my heart last night.
Yeah, you got to look. There were some questionable calls. The foot on the line, the fingertip on the ball. How could the refs not see that? But at the same time, the Badgers kind of, and don't get mad at me, people, for this, but they kind of deserved to lose that game a bit. You had a 9-point lead in the second half. You had both their big men in foul trouble. You had a clear path to the national championship, and you just shot poorly in the second half. So one half of me says, yes, the refs kind of screwed us over a bit, but at the same time, we kind of screwed ourselves.
Yeah, I agree with that. They did not play very well down the stretch, which was really upsetting to see, because the last 4 or 5 games in the tournament, they have been able to close teams out. So I think that's what we were all expecting. They held on to lead against Kentucky. They held on to lead against Oregon, and they just couldn't pull it off one more time. But it was a fun game to watch. Frank Kaminsky played great. Sam Decker didn't play as well as I think everyone was expecting him to play, but he still had a pretty decent game. They just couldn't pull it off this year.
I feel like a big reason Wisconsin wasn't able to pull it off is they didn't have that X factor. I mean, Duke's guards outplayed Wisconsin's guards. Kamitsky outplayed Okafor, who was having a terrible first half with missing layups consecutively. But unfortunately, from a Badger standpoint, the guards of Duke played better than Kamitsky couldn't exactly carry the whole team the whole game. So was that X factor missing for the Badgers?
It kind of was. I mean, Bronson Koenig just wasn't the same Bronson that we've expected, and Trey Jackson just hasn't been the same since he came back from that foot injury.
Brock, real quick, your input?
Yeah, I think that we missed just something. Our bench didn't really come in and do anything for us either, so we did miss an X factor last night.
All right, predicting the future, because that's what we do here. What does Wisconsin and Duke look like next year? Duke obviously has NBA caliber and Jahlil Okafor, some of their freshmen, Tyus Jones. What do you guys think about the teams moving next year? Obviously, Wisconsin's going to lose Big Frank, so your input, please.
I think that Duke will be Duke. Like, Duke is Duke every single year. They're going to bring in I haven't looked at the recruiting classes at all for next year, but I'm assuming they're going to bring in a bunch of 4- or 5-star recruits, and they'll be right back there again. For Wisconsin, on the other hand, it's going to be a little more interesting. Obviously, you lose Frank Kaminsky, the National Player of the Year, led the team in points, rebounds, assists, blocks. He pretty much was our team this year. I think if Sam Decker decides to stay for his senior year, we will be okay. I don't think we'll be where we were last year, last night, but we'll be decent. Maryland's going to be a tough team to get through in the Big Ten, and without Sam Decker and Frank Kaminsky, it's going to be a long season.
But the key is Nigel Hayes has already announced he's coming back for his junior season. That's a big boost to that lineup. You're bringing back a starter. He's probably one of the more fun-loving personalities on the team. So he's coming back. If Decker can come back, and then you've got Koenig still. So you got 3 starters on a team that went to the national championship game. And you got Zach Showalter waiting in the wings. He could be a potential at replacing Josh Gosser there at the other guard position. You just got to find a big man. Obviously, you can't replace a guy like Frank Kaminsky. He's a once-in-the-generation kind of player for Wisconsin. But you got to think Bo Ryan's going to get a little bit more recruiting now that we've been on the big stage back-to-back years.
Oh yeah, we will. And we do have a decent recruiting class coming in. A guy by the name of Khalil Iverson, who is a 6'7" guard forward. I think he'll be able to step in right away and make contributions to the team. You don't see a lot of freshmen starting in the Wisconsin system, but I think if there's the next one to do so, I think he could be it. So if Sam Decker stays, we will be fine. If Sam Decker leaves, it'll be a lot tougher.
All right, moving on to next year. Aside from Duke and Wisconsin, give me a team to watch out for next year.
You've always got to watch out for Kentucky. John Calipari's one of the best recruiting coaches of all time. He can get anybody to come to the Bluegrass State to play for the Wildcats. Yes, they did make a Final Four run this year, and yes, they're going to lose about 5 to 7 players in the NBA. He even said that today in a press conference. But he's going to get those 5-star and 4-star recruits just like Duke will, and they will be back. They're actually in ESPN's way too early top 25 that they release after the national championship game every year. Kentucky is #1 right now. So with a talented recruiting class coming in, they could be a force to reckon with next year.
Yeah, I think Kentucky will be right up there. I think Duke will be right up there, and I think North Carolina will be right up there just because of their historic programs. People want to go there and play for those teams because of the culture that they have created. I also think you have to be aware, as much as this hurts me to say, be aware of Maryland. They stole Diamond Stone out from underneath Wisconsin. That was really heartbreaking to see him not commit to the Badgers for next year. And Melo Tremble, their amazing freshman from this year, it said he was going to stay. So they could be a 1-2 punch that could be something to be scared of in the Big Ten. And then I think the Badgers will be good next year. Like I said, if Decker stays, we'll be right back in there. I think the heart and fight in that team will take them back and make a nice postseason run again.
Also, can't sleep on Florida State. I mean, they're going to projected to have a lineup where most of their players average over 6'6" next year for all 5 stars. They already have a top 10 recruiting class for this year. Does Florida State contend in the ACC?
Not with Duke, not with Virginia. I don't see them doing well in the ACC. They'll probably be average and they'll probably make the tournament, but I don't see them competing for a championship in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't see them doing a whole lot in the ACC as well. There's too many good teams on there. Like you said, they could make a tournament. They will probably make the tournament and win a couple games, but that's about it.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Please join us next time on Sports Talk Live. Enjoy your week.